Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is Rachel Maddow. Good evening, Rachel.
Good evening, Keith.
There's been a spike in the desire to own guns in Connecticut. Statewide, over 90,000 guns have been authorized for sale. You know how I feel about it.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Good evening, my fellow patriots. I almost wanted to say good morning. Gosh dang. The hours are running together. The days are running together here at the Midnight Patriot. So let's back up here and get this one right. Good evening, my fellow patriots. It is Monday, the 28th of October here in the great state of Wisconsin. Actually, in a great country of the United States. I mean, it's an awesome country that we live in. even though you can't lose sight. I know it's hard. I know it's hard. I know it's hard what we do, the work that we carry, and as patriots, and the load that we carry to right this ship here in America. But you got to have faith. You got to have faith. I do. I'm not giving up. I'm going to fight to the bitter end, and I ask that you do the same as well. So we got a jam-packed show for you guys tonight. Originally, we had a congressional candidate from the state of California was going to join us, Rodney Lee Conover. He actually called me about an hour before the show. He had a conflict. And obviously what he's doing and everything takes far more precedent over what I'm doing here in our little studios and here in the great state of Wisconsin. So he's going to reschedule. He might be bringing along a special guest with him on the reschedule. We don't know yet. He's setting that up and everything, but we just had a conflict of schedules and stuff. So he's gonna, hopefully we'll get him on later on in the week. And stuff happens. It's all right though. We have plenty to talk about. It's amazing when things happen when you just kind of go with the flow. Things just kind of work themselves out. And like I said, if you've heard me many times before, our active listeners, our new listeners, I'll be the first one to tell you, God drives this ship, and he doesn't make changes unless he has something else planned for us, and I'm a firm believer in that and everything. So, but we still have a jam-packed show for you. I got some inside information on a new form of gun control that's going to be coming down the pipe. We're going to expose that a little bit later, not too far into the show for all you Second Amendmenters out there who joined in just for that, because I know we posted it. Don't worry, we're not going to get too far in the broadcast before we cover that. But the main topic tonight, obviously, if you go out to our website, www.themidnightpatriot.com, that's www.themidnightpatriot.com. Our contact information, if you want to call in, it kind of opens up, without doing the interview, it kind of opens up the call-in lines tonight. So you can give us a call at 262-997-0607. That's 262-997-0607. Or, of course, you can Skype us at The Midnight Patriot. That's The Midnight Patriot is our Skype name, so you can always join us there. But yeah, we have a full load tonight. We're going to been doing some research, been doing some reading over the weekend. It was a great weekend here at the Midnight Patriot. We got our new ad server in. If you go to the web, we're able to do ads and process those right online. I ask that if you are a small business owner or know of a small business owner, direct them to our web. This is how we keep this show going. This is how we improve the show. And obviously what we're doing is working. There's no doubt about it. And I just want to thank my fellow patriots out there. You guys had everything to do with it. It was just announced today. Microsoft actually, it's crazy. Actually, I got an email with a phone call from the director of programming at Xbox Music. And he confirmed with us and told us that we are now officially on the Microsoft Xbox Music refeeds. So if you have an Xbox, a Windows-enabled device, even the Windows 8, if you go to the Xbox Music, you can actually search for the Midnight Patriot, and starting as of later on this evening, you'll be able to listen to us. So that's great news. We're making headways. I was looking at the show count this weekend, and we're growing the show by 20% every night. And I know that we can't do that without you, our listeners, and I am deeply, deeply appreciative of that and everything. So we got a jam-packed session for you. We're going to do 2 hours, maybe stretch it out to 3 tonight. I don't know. We're just going to kind of see where this ship takes us, where this crazy train, as some would say, and stuff. And I've always said this, is that I'm just the track. You are the locomotive, my fellow patriots. I'm just here to kind of guide you, direct you, make you feel at home, make you feel comfortable, get you into the conversation. And, we'll just kind of like any good track, just kind of lead into the night. And hopefully we'll arrive at our new station in one piece or another. So with that, we do for those that are new, we do a special segment here at the beginning. It's to honor the fallen. I've noticed over the weekend, I thank God that no other names were added. We did add 2 more names last week and stuff. But as long as there are soldiers out there putting themselves in harm's way, wearing this great nation's uniform, we will always honor and respect those. And so we do a segment. Now, I got to add, like I said, this is probably, I get a lot of feedback from this. And all I've got to tell you is that regardless of your political beliefs, regardless of your feelings about us being in a war, I have mine as well. We still need to respect and honor those that put on this country's uniform. Because someday, eventually, they're going to have to make a decision. They're going to have to make a choice. That goes for EMTs, paramedics, law enforcement. They're going to have to make a choice. And it is my desire and wish, and I think we're seeing this because the majority of our listeners, most of them are military or ex-military. I want them to know that even though their government doesn't care about them, even though this government or this current administration uses them to fight their agenda, uses them as intimidation tools against the American people and everything, I just want to let you know, I forgive you. Turn the other cheek. And I ask that you do the same. And for our fallen heroes and everything, we need to pay the ultimate respect towards them. Even though our current administration, our lawless administration does not, I will always respect and honor those that put on this nation's uniform. And so with this segment, we're going to go down the list. Like I said, we added two last week. But hopefully we can keep the list small for the rest of the month and going into November. Marine Corps, Lance Corporal Christopher O. Grant, October 20th, 2013. Army Sergeant Lyle D. Turnbull, October 18th, 2013. Army Staff Sergeant Patrick H. Quinn, October 13th, 2013. Army Sergeant Patrick C. Hawkins, October 6th, 2013. Army Captain Jennifer M. Marino, October 6th, 2013. Army Private First Class Cody J. Patterson, October 6th, 2013. Army Sergeant Joseph M. Peters, October 6th, 2013. Lance Corporal Jeremiah M. Collins, Jr., October 5th, 2013. And Army Specialist Angel L. Lopez, October 5th, 2013. If you are a soldier, active duty, retired, and you need help, or if you're a family member of a soldier currently serving this country, or who's retired and you need help, you always have somewhere to turn here at the Midnight Patriot. You can reach out to us. My email address is jeff@themidnightpatriot.com. We will get you the help that you need and your family needs. No requests will be turned down. I know my family's hearts and prayers go out to you for those that have lost brothers, sisters, husbands, wives.
In a moment, cancer changed our lives forever.
We were told nothing could be done to enjoy these final moments together.
But in that moment, when all seemed lost,
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital gave us hope.
Because at this moment, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is saving lives with pioneering research and care. We're changing the way the world treats childhood cancer by sharing our discoveries with doctors and scientists everywhere.
And we'll never have to pay St. Jude for anything, ever.
At this moment, she wants to be in her own bed.
I want to be back at school with my friends.
I want to be outside playing.
Please take a moment and join St. Jude in finding cures and saving children. Visit stjude.org.
America, welcome home the brave. The brave men and women who serve their country are coming home. Home to their cities and towns. Home to their mountains and valleys. Home to their families and friends. Home to America. Some of these warriors are coming home with wounds you can see, and some with wounds you can't see, like post-traumatic stress disorder. Wounded Warrior Project was created to provide the support these wounded veterans need to ensure their return to America is well-adjusted and successful. But we need your help to ensure that our mission is a success. Help us honor and empower these wounded warriors. Contact us at findwwp.org. America, welcome home the brave.
You are listening to the Midnight Patriot Radio Show podcast/radio show, now on Windows XM Music. So I am your host, Jeff Norton. Man, I'm sorry about jumping off that quick. It's for some reason that segment always gets to me. And I got my little friend Eric in the head said, you need a hug. But no, I don't need a hug. But I had to get off. That segment just always gets to me. I don't know why. I know why. My utter respect for those men and women that put on this country's uniform. That's why. And my disdain for a government who continues to have complete and utter disrespect towards them. I guess that's what it is. But hey, I gotta back off. I don't want to get angry. Don't want to, start screaming in the microphone and everything. A little too early in the night to be doing that and stuff. So if you want to join the conversation and everything, if you want to join the conversation, you can actually join us at www.themidnightpatriot.com. Our call-in number is 262-997-0607. That's 262-997-0607. Or you can always Skype us using Skype. Our Skype name is The Midnight Patriot. All the information you need is actually up on the website and for the call-in and everything. So before we took the break, and earlier tonight I posted up on Facebook that, I got some troubling information today, and actually it took me a little while to confirm it, but I did confirm it. I know there's a lot of rumor mill and all that stuff that goes conspiracy theory that goes on out there, and the thing is it's bad enough. It's really bad, the state of this country, the leadership or lack of leadership. We have a leader. He's just not. He's marching us right into the throes and hands of communism/socialism. That's where he's leading us, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Discover some things. Did a little education this weekend. It never ends here at the Midnight Patriot. We spend, we do a 2 to 3 hour show. I will tell you that we spend anywhere from 4 to 6 hours just preparing for the show, talking with people throughout the day, setting up interviews. And I will tell you that the Midnight Patriot, we are making an effect. And the reason being is I'm able now to contact people that are heavy hitters in this Patriot movement. I'm not talking about, the guy off the street, but this show is all about the guy off the street. But we're actually communicating with some very well known, and we're going to be getting them on the show here. It's a scheduling conflict, when they're doing Freedom Foundation work, or they're doing Fox News work, or if they're doing Alex Jones show and stuff. We're not quite there. Not quite there yet. But the fact that they're even willing to entertain coming onto our show and being a guest tells us that we're getting there. We are starting to effect some change, and it makes me feel good when I actually get the phone calls and say, hey, look, going on vacation, I'm going to be busy, but when I get back in mid-November, I'll give you a call. I'll get on the show for you. I can't tell you who it is, but I can tell you it's I'm honored to have them there. So we are affecting change. And, to be honest with you, our guests that we've had over the past week, we got a really great panel that we put together. We got Major Pandemic comes on. He talked about all things firearms, and we're going to continue those types of conversations with him. We got Prepper Recon, who joins us on Thursday nights. We talk about all things prepping with his tip of the week. By the way, the tip of last week was baking soda. You need to go get yourself some baking soda. But, go out to their websites. It's prepperrecon.com and majorpandemic.com. See what they're all about. We have great authors on the show. We had Jake Danish-Vesky. Jake, I know you're listening, so eventually I will get your name right. I have to come out to New York and spend some time with you, and you just beat it into me. But I will get your name right eventually. So, author of an outstanding book, After Tastes and Tales from Russia. We'll have another author on later on this week. Prepper Recon's actually an author. He just put out a new book. So, the caliber of our guests are just, incredible. And I've always said this show is not about the named guests. Now, it's nice to have a well-known political figure or a well-known author or movie personality, someone in mainstream media as part of your show. But I've always said that this show is all about us, the individual patriots, and you have a voice. Our saying here is that we give voice to those that normally don't. And this show is all about the conversations that we have daily on Facebook and other social media sites. It gives you the opportunity to call in and get your message out there. I use Facebook. I know it is a government controlled or government sponsored product to kind of link us all together. Oh, well, I don't care. My name's already out there. Jeff Norton, the Midnight Patriot. So I don't have to hide behind some icon or anything like that. I'm a patriot. I don't have a problem telling people what I believe, because I'll tell you one thing. They don't have a problem telling me what they believe. They don't have a problem enacting laws and using Gestapo-like tactics against me. So, know thy enemy. And I'll tell you one thing, as a patriot, this lawless administration better know who their enemies are. And I'm on that list. Because it has gone way too far. They are doing things just today. We're going to get to some of the other information I talked about for you, Second Amendment, but I got to add this. For all those that are out there, everybody's applauding. Yay. We're going to get six weeks extensions. We're going to get 6 weeks extensions. Everybody, all the mainstream media is, oh, look, the illustrious, King Obama, President Obama, he hears his people. He hears his people. You see something wrong with that? Number one, I ain't his people. He might bow to foreign dignitaries and all that. I will never bow to this president, ever. I'll look him square in the eye and tell him what I think he is. Have no problem whatsoever. He can call that a protest and lock me up, use his goons, his Secret Service. They did pass a law that you can't protest wherever Secret Service is located. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You cannot protest now wherever the Secret Service is located. Or you can protest. You can protest all you want to. But they're going to charge you with felony charges. Yeah. King Obama. The great one. The great Oz. But you know what? Like the movie Oz. It didn't take long for people to actually expose the fraud that he is. And we're going to do that a little bit here tonight. I'm going to give you a little bit of their playbook. I'm going to give you a lot of their playbook. I'm going to give you some insight so you can understand why he's doing what he's doing. Now, I know there's a lot of rumors that he hates Christians and he's Muslim and all that stuff. We dispelled a little bit of that last night. Now, we are doing some research on the Muslim Brotherhood angle and the fact that his half-brother is definitely entrenched in the Muslim Brotherhood organization, and he has 6 active members of his advisory team that are active Muslim Brotherhood members. They don't even hide it. It's out in plain sight, And if you want to know how despicable those people are, if If you want to know how despicable they are, you can go to YouTube. You can see it. Horrible, tragic, just monstrous, evil at its core. Evil at its core. And so we had that conversation and stuff. But, we talk about the lawlessness of this administration. Get back to that point. So today, Obama got up there, everybody, he hears you. He understands. So he said 6 weeks. I got a problem with that, Mr. President. Not a lawyer. I am an American citizen who reads the Constitution. Got a problem with that. Since when do you have the authority to change law? The law that was passed by Congress was a law that clearly stated, and you've done this 3 times. You've done it many more times. This the Obamacare. Your Obamacare law was passed by Congress to go active on a certain date, and people had to adhere at a certain date and time. But with a stroke of a pen or words on media, your controlled media TV, you changed that law. Got a problem with that, Mr. President. You don't have the authority. Even as the President of the United States, our framers of the Constitution knew your ilk, knew your kind, Mr. President. Even back then, when they convened and wrote our Constitution, they knew that eventually there was going to be someone like you coming into power in the United States. Now, they tried to avoid it as much as they could, but they knew. And they specifically granted powers to the 3 branches of our government. And you, Mr. President, you might think you have the power to rewrite laws, but you don't. You don't have the power. Now, the problem is what he does, like all great dictators. So my listeners out there, maybe the new listeners, most of my listeners get this, but the new listeners, you might say, but he's helping out the people. Really? By circumventing our Constitution that gives you the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, the freedom of religion, the right to vote, all those things within the Constitution, the bodies of the Constitution. He's doing the right thing by circumventing that. Really? So if he can circumvent the articles that clearly define the powers of the executive, the Congress and the judicial branches, if he can circumvent that, even though it's going in your favor, or you think it's going in your favor, that's arguable, especially with Obamacare, because I think we're all going to get shafted in the end, including the individuals who benefit the most from this law, which are the people that didn't have health insurance to begin with and people that couldn't afford insurance. I still think you're still going to get, nothing's for free. The law of nature tells you can't create you just can't do it. When you get something for free, that means that someone gave up something, so they lose. And like all parasites, and I'm just saying this, not, I'm just making a general statement. There is a time in biology in which even the parasite will eventually kill the host. And without the host, the parasite will then die. So this is a short gain, but eventually the laws of nature, and you can't fight Mother Nature, but the laws of nature kick in. And the parasite eventually sucks the life out of the host. And once that happens, the host dies. Now, the problem is most parasites will say, well, I'll just find another host. Well, the problem is that all the hosts in America are collectively getting the life drained out of them. So eventually you're going to lose. You know, some of the hosts actually wake up. And they cut the parasite off of them before it can kill them. Yeah. Some of the hosts become aware of the situation. So I'm just telling you, if you think you're at, that you have an advantage here, you don't. It will eventually come back and the host will die. And thus you will die as well. So I don't want to hear this, not, well, some of us benefit. No, we're all going to lose. That's why we're in this together. We're all in this together. It is my responsibility. If the government's not going to teach you to fish, but just give you fish, then it's my responsibility, because I don't want to see your family suffer. I really don't. Most patriots don't. Now, granted, there are some people that we just get so aggravated with that I'm sure we want to just choke. We do. But ultimately, most patriots, they don't want to see that happen. They really don't. And that's what this show is about, is to give you hope. If you come to this movement, this patriot movement, we'll give you the skills. We'll teach you how to think for yourself. We will teach you that in thinking for yourself and doing right by yourself and your family, you're actually, unlike the government, who believes the government needs to dictate how society should present itself. A patriot feels that, hey, look, start with the core, with the individual. And if the individual's right and then the individual grows from there, then society, a group of, the society will grow. That's the core beliefs of a patriot. Where the government, their core beliefs is you can't fend for yourself, you can't take care of yourself, so we'll take care of you. But if you want us to take care of you, you're going to have to play by our rules. And typically, their rules aren't to your benefit. They really aren't. They're poisoning your kids' minds so that they can't think. Or their common core. They're dumbing you down. They're oppressing you. Slavery, financial slavery is still slavery. It really is. I'm sure you wake up at night and you look at your kids and you want better for your family. Unless, of course, you just are complete sociopaths. They're out there. But you want better for your family. You really do. And the problem is you can't get better for your family because, number one, you don't have the education because of your dumbed down schools. Not, part of that's your responsibility, but as a young person, you don't think like that. But you, as an adult, you have the opportunity to do better. Oh, I forgot. You rely on the government to take care of you. So you have to do what they tell you to do. And last time I checked, bettering yourself wasn't part of that picture. The only people that I've actually seen come out of the government-controlled slavery, financial slavery that they impose on people, are those individuals who wake up and find that God is the answer and government is not. And it's those people that raise up and go on and take control of their lives. It's those people. We have examples of those. We talk about Star, who's, we have some clips from her, and she talked about how she was entrenched in that belief system. For those that don't know, she was entrenched, and in her own words. See if I can find it here for you in the queue. Maybe we can. Maybe we can't. But you don't need to hear it from me. Here's Star Parker.
Talk a little bit about your history. Your bio says that you have 7 years of firsthand experience in the grip of welfare dependency. What does that mean?
Well, it means I believe the lie of the left. I believe a lot of the rhetoric that we're hearing today, that the poor are poor because the wealthy are wealthy, that my problems were somebody else's fault, that America's inherently racist, so no need to mainstream. And I got caught up in a lot of reckless behavior, criminal activity, drug activity, sexual activity that landed me in and out of the welfare state 3.5 years consistently. And it wasn't until a Christian conversion that I changed my life. Now, this is the significance of what we're discussing at the Value Voter Summit. There are Americans who've changed their lives based on new information about religious conviction and personal responsibility. When you change your life and you start saying, wait a minute, I have an obligation to my neighbor to be self-sufficient, to be responsible with my decisions, you start to see debt go down. You start to see responsibility increase. So you start to see prosperity. It's a challenge it was a challenge in my life, and it's a challenge in a lot of people's lives today, that we keep making political promises that somebody else will take care of you, and that person is getting weaker as a contributor in this society.
Your latest op-ed for the Christian Post, this is the headline, Budget Crisis has roots in the erosion of values. Can you expand on that?
Well, that's wonderful, Colin. I've been talking quite a bit about what's happened first of all, my column is for Scripps News Service, and so we distribute to about 300 different outlets, and so I just need to clarify that because people wonder, how are you on so many places? And it's just the one distribution service. But what I'm looking at this week in my column is this conflict of visions. There are those in our society now, and especially here in Washington, that keep insisting that all of the shutdown is the Republicans' fault, and that the Tea Party are ideologues, and that this is what's driving this discussion. The Tea Partiers are ideologues, but so is the president. What they have are
Star Parker. You heard it in her own words. It wasn't until she realized that there was something more important in life, something more important to worship than the government. Going to an earlier conversation, earlier show that we had on Thursday, Friday last week, we talked about this. This government, a lot of people would say that President Obama is afraid of Christians because he's Muslims, and we talked about that. We talked about the fact that I don't think that it's because he's Muslim. I think it's because of his socialist, Maoist, and communist upbringing and his training. And we're going to talk about that a little bit in his number one influence. And, we're going to kind of run through the lies that you're going to hear from liberals when we talk about Sal Alinsky. We're going to get to that in the next hour. But in this hour, we were talking about, bring back the conversation. I hear that a lot. Bring the conversation back. There's so much to talk about. There really is. And if you'd like to join us, you can always get us on the web at www.themidnightpatriot. You can call in at 262-997-0607, or you can Skype us at The Midnight Patriot. That's our Skype name. So you go to Skype, type in The Midnight Patriot. If we're already friends on Facebook, or if you follow us on Facebook, you can call right into the show. Don't have a problem with that. So getting back to the lawlessness. So this is number 3, Mr. President. 3 times, just in Obamacare, that you broke the law. Forget about Fast and Furious, Benghazi. Oh, yeah, did you see that report this week on Benghazi? We'll probably talk about that a little bit later, too. But, yep, Mr. President, we got you. This is the 3rd time, Mr. President, that you have broken the law, usurped your powers that are granted to you by the states through the corporation, or through the Constitution. Man, my mind's already in the next conversation. Runs nonstop here. But really. So when people are out there applauding and saying, "Oh, we got 6 more weeks" or whatever, I would turn it pretty quick and say, "Yeah, but the president just usurped the Constitution of the United States." He's already shown that he just doesn't care about the Constitution. He really doesn't. There's multiple violations that his administration has blatantly committed. So that's that news about the Constitution. The fact that the president once again showed us his lawless nature. Talk about lawlessness. For those that didn't watch the 60 Minutes episode, you can go to their website and actually watch it. I mean, that's starting to come out. People are talking. People that were there that saw that. I can tell you one person that wasn't watching it, and I'm sure it was Miss Hillary Rodham Clinton. She was in Chicago today, by the way. Yeah. She was in Chicago. Oh, that must have been fun. But thank God I'm no longer working there. I probably would have been protesting her. But yeah, she was down there. She was down she was pandering for votes, getting ready to run. 2016. It was obvious. She was at the Jewish Federation and stuff. So pandering for votes, getting her bank account set up for her run. I just think we just need to set up, every rally, every town hall meeting, every debate, everywhere she goes. I think we ought to just make banners up to say Benghazi. Don't have to say anything else. Just say Benghazi. And then put bloody handprints all over them. There's an idea for you. There's an idea, especially after watching the 60-minute special. If you haven't seen it, go out there and watch it. It's all over the web right now. Independent news, well, mainstream news. Mainstream news. So it's basically what we've been telling you all along, what other alternative news sites have been telling you all along. This administration ignored the cries for help. You got to ask yourself, why? Why wouldn't they come to the aid of an American citizen, or even worse, why wouldn't they come to an aid to a state to a ambassador? Why? And it's not the story or the mainstream story that Kerry and all those guys were given. It was fluid. It was about a movie, but this was going on. When the Stryker team, asked for permission to go to rescue Stevens and stuff, our administration gave them the stand down order. Told them no. Basically left them out to dry. So you got to ask yourself. You really got to ask yourself, does this government really care about you and I? Do they? Do they really care about you and I when they couldn't even take care of one of their own? Fed them to a pack of wolves? I don't know. But watch the 60-minute episode. Watch it. It's this weekend. Like I said, you can watch it. It will, I don't know how you can even, I don't even know why the liberal media is just not blowing up over this. Oh, I know why. They don't care. They have an agenda. Move forward. Hope and change. Oh, we're going to tell you where those came from, by the way. President Obama and his administration didn't They don't own those slogans. If Sal Alinsky was alive today, he could probably sue them for copyright infringement. But we'll talk about that at in the next hour. So, as promised, let's change subjects here. As promised, I got a little inside information today. Did a little bit of research. Did a little bit of digging. We don't want to be part of the rumor mill. We want to come to you with fact. And, I've always said that, there's a very famous comedian. And I've always said that if the government can't do gun control, they're going to do bullet control. And that's not an original thought. As much as I would like to sit here and say, oh, I thought of this, it wasn't. Because the reason why it was an original thought is because I actually heard this comedian several years ago talk about this, and it clicked. I'm like, that's how they're going to do it, right? Because you're not going to be able to get the guns out of people's hands as a tangible item. But one of the things is a resource. All guns need is bullets. The government's buying up ammunition. Now, I think a lot of that has to do with just general buying up. But the effects on the market are pretty drastic. Can't get ammo. It's starting to come around again, and no sooner than it starts to come around. Just the other day, I was out at a website that I frequent to buy ammo, and I was able to get rounds at 32 cents a round for 223. 32 cents a round. Now, it's not the best ammo, but it has a very high ranking. You can get it now its ammo's back at 42 cents. So the price of ammo's actually come back down. But then what does our government do? We'll talk about that. But, like I said, I didn't have give credit where credit's due. This is not an original thought. This is not something, I remember watching this comedian many years ago. And it looks like this administration now has a comedian now heading up their gun control policy. And this is Chris Rock, for those that don't know.
You don't need no gun control. You know what you need? We need some bullet control. We need to control the bullets. That's right. I think all bullets should cost $5,000. $5,000 for a bullet. You know why? Because if a bullet costs $5,000, there'll be no more innocent bystanders. Yeah. Every time somebody gets shot, you be like, damn, he must have did something. Should they put $50,000 worth of bullets in his head? And people will think before they kill somebody if a bullet costs $5,000. Man, I would blow your fucking head off.
All right, enough of that. I do apologize for that. We try to keep the show a little bit clean and stuff. So, as Chris Rock said, we need bullet control. And there was rumors going on around that the EPA was trying to regulate or classify actual lead bullets. For those that don't know, bullets are typically made out of lead. Is the most popular soft metal, with a copper jacket. Well, as you all know, growing up, and we talk about lead poisoning and stuff, and how the EPA is regulated that, there was a move in the administration to actually regulate bullets as a hazardous material. Yeah, okay, for many reasons, but the fact they were going to regulate it because of the lead content. Now, there was a huge push of outcry against that, because we saw what it was on its face, that the government was trying to dry up or regulate tax bullets. In many states, like in the state of New York and stuff, they're trying to enact where you have to give ID and register your bullets. There was a gentleman who was just arrested in Washington, D.C. last week and possibly faces federal crimes because he didn't register his bullets. So they're leaving the guns alone, but now they're going after the bullets. Now, for those that don't know, in the great state of Missouri, that's where 80% of the lead is mined. Vast, vast lead mines in the state of Missouri. Now, the state of Missouri actually represents about 10% of the total lead production in the world. But 80% of the domestic lead that's created is created in Missouri. Now, the EPA has been going after Doe Run, DOE, Doe Run mines. They've been trying to shut them down. And Doe Run is the last lead producing mine in the United States. The EPA's been, going after them for environmental issues because of lead, right? Well, it looks like, and we're trying to figure this out because Governor Nixon actually vetoed a law that would limit the fines and legal damages of those that sue Doe Run. Now, of course, the EPA's jumped out. So you got civil suits going on, and now the EPA's going after it. So Doe Run basically announced, or will be announcing, that they're going to cease operations. They just can't do it. So the pressure of the administration, the fact that basically they can be sued under EPA laws and all that, and there's no limit to that, the mining business, Doe Run, has decided they're going to get out of the mining of lead business. So in effect, what this administration has been able to do is end run their original plan, which was to regulate bullets as an EPA hazardous material. In effect, what they did is they cut the supplier off. They bought up the majority of the ammunition to keep the prices up. And now when that didn't work, they then put their EPA, dogs on Doe Run in Missouri. And they made it so cost prohibitive for them to continue production. So eventually they're going to dry up the lead market. Now, the other thing too is the EPA is going after a lot of your lead reclaimers, companies that recycle. I thought this was the party of green. So these are companies that recycle lead and then repurpose that lead and continue on. The EPA is going after them. This is this has nothing to do with environmental issues. And if you think it does, you got to ask yourself, if that's the case, this government's so concerned about environmental issues, why are they the number one polluter? I mean, our government pollutes, the CO2 emissions off of Air Force One when the president wants to go on a golfing trip, or the first lady wants to go on a vacation. I mean, this administration doesn't have a problem when it fits their needs and stuff to, be damned with environmental. So once again, this is not an administration that really cares about it. A lot of people say, well, this is the administration that was for wind farms and solar panels. Well, Solyndra. No, this was an administration that had a policy that extracted money from the taxpayers and gave it to campaign contributors. Can't spit it out. That's what that was about. This is an administration whose cronies and friends, like most administrations, I'm not going to lay it all at their feet. But this is, when this administration's pretty much doubled our national debt in February, they're going to increase it up to $22 trillion. That's not including future obligations. That's current obligations of $22 trillion is what the GAO is saying by February 20 when they reconvene. Because the law that was passed to open up the government basically did not set any type of spending limits. So you gave government a credit card with an unlimited balance. So that's this administration. So yep. So you're seeing the last of the lead mines in the United States shutting down because of pressure of the administration. And with no lead, we know what that means. You know that industry is going to take, you still need lead for batteries. There's lots of other uses other than bullets that you need lead for. And, you eventually will see. So, just going to let you know. That's what's coming down the pipe. We talked about it today. We did confirm it here at the Midnight Patriot. That Doe Run is with Governor Nixon in the great state of Missouri has vetoed a law that it intentionally or was originally going to limit the amount of damages that individuals and companies can seek for lead poisoning. Then on top of that, with a double hit from the EPA and their new regulations, Doe Run made a business decision and said that they can't continue in this environment. So expect, price of lead to go up. So if you don't have your ammo now, I would recommend that you go get it. Ammo is one of those things at 32 cents a round. That's the cheapest I've seen it. You can go to bulkammo.com. That's bulkammo.com. Just letting you guys know. Now, I could have held that all for myself, but that's not what it's about. We are here to help you weather this storm and to help, and hopefully you will help us right this ship. So I'm going to take a small break. When we get back, we're going to talk about Sal Alinsky, his ties, his influence on this current administration. You're going to see a lot of things that are going to awaken your eyes. I'm going to talk about a couple books that I read over the weekend that I highly recommend that you read as well. It's going to give you a tremendous amount of insight of why this administration, this president in particular, does what he does. There's a lot of things going out there and they're just saying, oh, he's this or he's that. This is actually going to give, when we get done with this, my goal is to give you the insight that you need to understand what is going on. But more importantly, with insight, G.I. Joe, knowing's half the battle, right? Remember the old cartoons, G.I. Joe, knowing's half the battle? The thing is that you can make an intelligent argument, because what happens is they set the media will set landmines out there, and you'll trip over them. They're valid arguments on the face. You look at them and say, well, that makes sense. He hates Christians because he's a Muslim. But the problem is when you start spewing that or you start talking about that, it makes you sound, let's just be honest, because part of it might not be true. Some of it might. Part of it's not. So it makes us as patriots sound like we're uneducated. So I'm going to give you the education. I'm going to give you the arguments that you can use tomorrow at the water cooler or in other conversations when you're talking with your local friends. When you have their playbook, I'm going to give you their playbook. Now, it's up to you to go read it and study it. But when you read it like myself, when I was reading it, it became clear. I understand the doublespeak. that this president does. I understand now why he can sit there and say one thing but then do another and do it in clear conscience. Doesn't bug him. I got it. I understand it. So when we get back from the break, we're going to break down President Obama's relationship with the community organizer of all times, Sal Alinsky. You're listening to the Midnight Patriot Radio Show. If you want to join us on the web, go to www.themidnightpatriot.com. Our phone lines are open. You can give us a call at 262-997-0607. That's 262-997-0607. Or you can join us on Skype at The Midnight Patriot. Our Skype name, once again, is The Midnight Patriot.
America, welcome home the brave. The brave men and women who serve their country are coming home. Home to their cities and towns. Home to their mountains and valleys. Home to their families and friends. Home to America. Some of these warriors are coming home with wounds you can see, and some with wounds you can't see, like post-traumatic stress disorder. Wounded Warrior Project was created to provide the support these wounded veterans need to ensure their return to America is well-adjusted and successful. But we need your help to ensure that our mission is a success. Help us honor and empower these wounded warriors. Contact us at findwwp.org. America, welcome home the brave.
In a moment, cancer changed our lives forever.
At this moment, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is saving lives with pioneering research and care.
And will never have to pay St. Jude for anything, ever.
At this moment, she wants to be in her own bed.
I want to be back at school with my friends.
I want to be outside playing.
Please take a moment and visit stjude.org today.
You're listening to the Midnight Patriot. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. You can join us here every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. If we have a guest, sometimes we'll go into the midnight hour, all the way till 12 a.m. That's as long as I can talk. My voice gives out. I've noticed that since I've been doing this show, my voice is getting deeper and stuff. I do notice that. And that's actually one of the things that the network was telling me as they are prepping us to go mainstream, that we need to start putting breaks in. I know. There's nothing worse than listening to a radio show and having advertisements. But that's how we fund this. But I'm also realizing that's how I save my voice. because as I talk to you for 3 hours a night and then do the course of work and all the phone calls and correspondence I do during the day, it's, I can actually understand why we need to take a break. So I do promise this, though. I am fighting really hard to take as many or as less breaks as possible as we put in the ad servers for the show and everything. So, I am trying to limit that, to actually have a top and bottom hour, maybe a 5-minute break between the two at the top and bottom, and then leave that open. So we'll see and everything. So as promised, like I said, you want to join us, though. If you want to join in the conversation, give us a call at 262-997-0607. Or, of course, you can Skype us at The Midnight Patriot. Now, before I forget, put a little note here. For those that want to know, the music that we play on the show is actually provided to us by Madison Rising, MadisonRising.com. Go out to their website. They got Patriot music and stuff. They are the official music provider for the Midnight Patriot Show. We love their music. We love their message. And we'll continue to play it as long as they continue to produce it and everything. So before we went into the break, we wanted to give you guys a little bit of education, because it's all about knowledge. It's not fair that I have all this knowledge. No, I don't have all this knowledge. That's a little arrogance. I'm sounding like another couple broadcasters I actually listen to. No. But when I do come across things that are so obvious, I have to share them with you. I have to share those. There's no reason to know the secrets and to hold them to yourselves. We got to get them out there. And hopefully you guys, listeners out there, which I'll let you know, there's about we've hit well over our 1,000 listener mark per show with all of the feeds and everything. So we're getting out there. We are. But hopefully with this information, you'll be able to make intelligent arguments at the water cooler and not just spew off things that you've been told. And like all the shows that we do here, if you go to www.themidnightpatriot.com, you click on the show as it appears in the bottom bar. Like this show will be at the top bar. But tomorrow it will be at the bottom bar as we put a new show in its slot. You can click on read more, and everything that we say on here, we source. We give you the sources. We don't have a problem doing that because we want you to have the same knowledge that we have. We want to share. There's no reason to say that we're the gatekeepers or we're the only ones that know this stuff. No, we'll share our information with it because it's all about disseminating information. This movement is much larger than me. It's much larger than other alternative media personalities. It's much larger than even, mainstream media personalities. To truly affect change, Stone Anthony said we need about 115 million individuals to affect change because you got about 53 million on each side of the party combating the rest of us. We need about 115 million in order to effectively fight this. And you're not going to get those types of numbers by keeping things secret. This is not going to happen. So, like I said, earlier on in the conversation, or right before we went to break, let's break down this thing, or these influences that seem to infiltrate or to latch themselves into our current political environment, and talk about the relationship between Sal Alinsky and President Barack Obama and his administration, for that matter, and previous administrations. It's just that President Barack Obama is just blatant about it. President Bill Clinton used some of Sal's tactics as well. But let's talk about President Barack Obama. Now, for those that don't know, give you a little bit of bio here. Not vile, bio. It is kind of vile, though. But let's give you a little bit of bio here. Sal Alinsky. So if you want to Google him, his name's spelled Saulalinsky. Sal Alinsky. He is an author, born in Chicago, Illinois. Died in California in 1972 at the age of 63 of a heart attack. He attended the University of Chicago and received a PhD. PhD, not PhD, but a PhD. Right? So those that don't know, a PhD is actually a Bachelor of Philosophy. So he's a philosopher. He was a mainstream or a current philosopher. Now, when he was born in 1909, one of the things that he aspired to do was to connect, especially being in Chicago, the city of Chicago. The city in which, if you know certain people, you say, well, a lot of family in Chicago. I'm not talking about the family that sits around the dinner table. Well, they probably do. I'm talking about the family, the mobsters, the mob bosses. One of the things that Sal, if you don't know, did is he developed a relationship with a former Al Capone associate. So right there, because his type of protest, which is commonly known now as community organizing, depended heavily upon the support of the unions. Yeah. So obviously he developed relationships. So like I said, he graduated from the University of Chicago with a PhD. Died in 1972. Now, a lot of your liberals out there will say, well, you can't make the argument that Sal influenced the President of the United States. Because obviously, if he passed away in 1972, that would mean that President Barack Obama, if I do my math correctly, would be 10 years old, right? And that's, actually a lot of your liberal, the mainstream media, your liberals out there will make that argument. On its face, it makes sense. But the reality of it is Sal Alinsky was a teacher. He wrote books. He educated others. He educated others. He understood. And so, two of his most notable books was Revival for Radicals, which he wrote in 1946. But the one that's most popular, and I highly recommend that if you want to understand, if you want to enlighten yourself, sometimes you have to immerse yourself in the pit, in the quagmire of evil. You do. That way you have the knowledge that you need to combat. All great warriors will tell you, you have to, you have to get engaged. You have to get in. You know thy enemy, right? Know thy enemy. So as much as it pains me to tell you that you need to go out and read this book, you need to go out and read it so you'll understand. And that's the Rules for Radicals, which was written in 1971. This book is the play, and I'm going to give you the rules. I'm going to give you his rules that he laid out there. This book is the playbook of what goes on. And then we're going to talk about other books that you also need to read. And they're actually not books, they're more like pamphlets. And you can get them on Amazon.com and everything. I think a couple of them they're like $2 on Amazon if you get them on your Kindle. Maybe you can find them at a used bookstore or whatever. But a lot of your liberals, like I said earlier, will argue, well, President Barack Obama, how could he know, Sal? He's only 10 years old when the man died in 1972. Well, Sal was a teacher. He wrote these books, and these books are the rule book for anybody who is going to, who wants to take from the rich and give to the poor. Socialism, communism. We talked about that on Friday with the president. Like I said, my hypothesis, and the more I read, the more it's going to turn into law in my mind. The more I read, I realize very quickly that this president has a disdain for Christianity because he's a socialist and a communist. And actually, as I read, it glared out at me. Saul did too. Because he understood that the power of the church to affect and to move people and everything was greater than the individual. And the problem is in order for this administration, this president to push and to do his life, he has to be the center of the attention. He can't compete with, or God. He doesn't want God taking away from his viewership, his listenership. Really. That's evil. And we're going to talk about that because I'm going to show you a little bit where actually Sal, I'll read to you who he dedicates this book or who he dedicates the book to. Rules for Radicals. But first, let me answer that question. How can someone who died when the president was 10 still influence the president? Well, I'm going to use the president's own words because we try to use his words. I don't have to make this up. I'm going to use his own words. In his book, Dreams of My Father, Obama told a story of how in 1985 he responded to a job advertisement he saw in the newspaper. Looking for a job. According to the story, Obama tells Marty Kaufman, now that's a fictional name that he uses for the real person, Jerry Kellman. So in his book, Dreams of My Father, he uses the fake name of Marty Kaufman, but he's actually talking about Jerry Kellman. Obama said Kellman telephoned him and explained that he started an organizing drive in Chicago and was looking to hire a trainee. The Calumet Community Religious Conference was trying to convert the black churches of Chicago's South Side into agents for social change and was looking for a community organizer to run the inner city arm of the project, the Developing Communities Project, or DCP. When Kellman showed up in New York to interview Obama, this was Obama still lived in New York, he offered Obama a job on the spot. The job paid $12,000 a year plus $2,000 car allowance, enough for an old, beat-up automobile. Still, Obama said yes. And as a 24-year-old, he packed up his meager belongings and headed off to the Big Apple to the Windy City. So there you go, Kellman. Now, in the story of how he got the job, Obama tells in Dreams of My Father, he had a feel of being too lucky to be true. In other words, he embraced this job, community organizer, that he was offered by Jerry Kellman. In The Audacity of Hope, Obama mentions it in passing. So he kind of leaves it off in his second book. Now, Kelman basically needed President Barack Obama. If you know, back in the time, I mean, Kelman obviously was, well, you might not know this, but he was white. And they needed to convert these black inner city churches. So they hired President Obama to do that. Now, you got to understand one thing about Kelman. Kelman was he was a community organizer in Chicago at the time. Kelman was a direct, he was a direct student of Sal Alinsky. So not only did he drink the Kool-Aid, but he continued to drink the Kool-Aid of Sal Alinsky. And this is the gentleman who gave President Obama his job and got him into community organizing. That's the connection. That's how, now, regardless, President Obama, he showed early on in his life a propensity to associate with communists and radicals. He did, be it Brown in Hawaii and as we talked about last Friday. So it wasn't that hard of a stretch to introduce or to take this young man who was already, indoctrinated, and then give him the tools or the playbook in which he can move masses. We talked about this actually. Jake Danishevsky, when we had him on last week, we talked about how these evil leaders all had a propensity or an ability to move the masses. They all did. And the thing is if you can, if Hitler had a playbook, Stalin, Mao, Lenin had a playbook that they went by, it would give you great insight. Why was Hitler? That's still argued today. Why was Hitler so adamant against the Jews? What caused him to have that animosity towards the Jews? There's many arguments, many hypotheses, but there's not a playbook. You have a playbook. If you go and read Rules for Radicals, you will have the playbook for Obama. You will. No questions about it. Now, going back to, a lot of people are like, well, he was a community organizer. He was all about taking the downtrodden and raising them up, right? Well, okay. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But, let me give you a little bit more insight into Sal in his book, Rules for Radicals. When he wrote that book, in the preface, at the beginning, the dedications, most people, I want to thank my wife, I want to thank my kids, I want to thank my editor, I want to thank my dog, Sparky, I want to, the dedication, they're in every book. Everybody does it. And frankly, it's well-deserved, because if you ever wrote a book, or if you ever started writing a book, and you have family, they put up with a lot of stuff during the time. It's kind of like this radio show. Sandy and I, we talk about it all the time. How many hours? This is probably the easiest job, the most pleasurable job I've ever had, but the amount of hours that I have to put in for the shows is ungodly. So I can imagine what being a writer's like, right? Trying to formulate those thoughts. But let's get back to the dedication. In the Rules for Radicals, this is three people Sal dedicates his book to. Now, the first one's noble. I get it. Jewish scholar Rabbi Hillel. And this is what Rabbi Hillel said. Where there are no men, be thou a man. Oh, that makes sense. I can, yeah, okay. I get it. That's actually pretty good. Obviously, You know, Sal Alinsky was Jewish and had a rabbi, a teacher Hillel. And, you know, so that's his first dedication. The second dedication was to Thomas Paine, U.S. founding father, known for his book called Common Sense. You know, this is what he quotes. Let them call me rebel and welcome. I feel no concern from it, but I should suffer the misery of devils were I to make a whore of my soul. Thomas Paine. He actually, Alinsky put that in his dedication. You know, what is that? Well, you know, obviously, you know, Sal, when he put that in there, he models himself after a rebel. And he encourages his readers that only in rebellion will their souls be set free. Find a cause, and, you know, your soul will be set free. Fight for that cause. That's noble. Pretty noble. Kind of like what we do here at the Midnight Patriot. I get it. Find yourself a cause. Be the men, as first said, be a men where children are, basically. Be the man. Rise above. The other thing is find your cause in life, your purpose in life, and fight for it, and you will be set free. Those are all noble. All noble. This is the one. That we have a problem with. One that should clearly define the mode and the intentions of Sal Alinsky in his book, Rules for Radicals. The final acknowledgement Alinsky attributes to himself. So he's writing to himself. Writing to himself. Self-absorbed, narcissistic. Few words that come to mind. Lest we forget at least an over-the-shoulder acknowledgement to the very first radical. So he's going to acknowledge the first radical ever. From all our legends, mythology, and history, and who is to know where mythology leaves off and history begins? So he's saying where truth and fiction, truth and history, or, you know, mythology and history, where one bleeds into the other. Where does it end? And where does it begin? The first radical known to man who rebelled against the establishment and did it so effectively that he least won his own kingdom. Can't make this up, people. These are his own words. This is who Sal dedicated his book. 3 dedications. Thomas Paine, Rabbi Hill, and the third one, Lucifer. Let me reread that to you so you get it in its entirety, because that's important. The final acknowledgement Alinsky attributes to himself is this: lest we forget at least an over-the-shoulder acknowledgement to the very first radical. From all our legends, mythology, and history, and who is to know where mythology leaves off and history begins, or which is which? The first radical known to man who rebelled against the establishment and did it so effectively that at least he won his own kingdom, Lucifer. Written by Sal Alinsky. I don't know about you. I really don't. Now, you know, sometimes, like I said, you got to wallow with the pigs. You do. You know, we're warriors. We're patriots here. So sometimes you got to when you read that, and that's his dedication, that sets the tone for the rest of the book, as far as I'm concerned. Now you know where he's coming from. He dedicated his book to Lucifer. And we have a president, an administration, who is using this book and who has used this book as their playbook. If you weren't concerned, you should be concerned now. That goes back to that tells me why is this president so hell-bent, I use those words, hell-bent, on destroying family value, Christian value, and all of those things. Now, I'm not saying that he is a devil worshiper. Don't put those words in my mouth. If he is, I'll find out. But what I am saying is that he is reading, educating, and implementing plans, playbooks that have been attributed and dedicated to Lucifer. And the fact that Sal Alinsky is worshiping, because it is a form of worship, is what he says. Rebellion against establishment, and did so effectively that he at least won his own kingdom. He's worshiping him, saying, he did it so well. He so well at what he did. He got it. He got his kingdom in hell. God cast him out and gave him a kingdom. So apparently, what he was doing worked. Really, Sal? So you got a president who clearly, Kaufman, was exposed to the teachings of Sal Alinsky. You have Sal Alinsky's #1 book that's being used to this day, dedicated to Lucifer. 3 people, but one of them being Lucifer. Are you concerned yet? Because I am. Now, as I said earlier in our broadcast, when I talked about if Sal Alinsky was alive today, he would had a great lawsuit against President Barack Obama and his campaign. This whole hope and change that we hear about. Sal, one of his mottos was change and hope. Yeah. Change and hope. That's what Sal used in his slogans when he was doing his community organizing work. Yeah. So hope and change was actually change of hope. Now, that was a cry, or actually a code word that Sal used for saying, we need to create a socialist revolution in the United States. So, so you have a president who uses that as a slogan. That slogan was actually coined by Sal Alinsky. Sal Alinsky then used it as a code word for socialism in America. The hope and change that we're going to bring socialism. Because Sal Alinsky's whole argument was based around the fact of taking from those that had and giving to the ones that didn't have. And his rules of radicalism, we're going to go down some of the rules, and you're going to hear these maybe for the first time, were basically rules that said, do whatever you got to do to get the job done. And I'm going to give you examples of where the president has done exactly that in his speech. Do whatever you got to do. Say whatever you've got to say. As long as you get what you want in the end, it's okay. It's kind of like you go back to the whole belief, like the Muslim religion. We talked about that. A good Christian, is told by the Bible you can't lie. You can't commit, no matter where you're at, no matter what battle you're in, no matter how dire your life is. You are taught that you still need to maintain your Christian values, regardless. And when you have sinned, you need to atone for those one way or the other. However, you should do it. Those are Christian tenets, right? It doesn't give you absolution from your crime or your sin. It doesn't. You're still guilty of the sin. But what you need to do is you need to atone, or you need to acknowledge and make it right. That's the religion. Well, in the Muslim religion, it's perfectly okay to lie, cheat, steal, and do all those things, as long as you're doing it as long as you're doing it for the growth and the movement and the moving forward of Islam. We talked about that, Obama the Great Deceiver, in an article that I wrote 2 weeks ago now. Wow, it's been 2 weeks. But you have that same mindset here. The same exact mindset. So we'll talk about that. We're going to go in a little bit more detail, but I want to share some things with you first. Alinsky, this is some of his rules, and he actually made rules, but this is how he got to those rules. It was kind of like the 10 Commandments. He has his 12 rules, and I'll read them to you a little bit later. The first job is to raise political consciousness by creating issues of economic unfairness in the minds of the workers. The second job is to create an organization, a trade union, or a political party through which the organizer can take actions that give the organization power. Sound familiar? Race baiting. Sounds familiar? The haves and the haves not. That's basically President Obama's whole political stick. Blame the haves. Get the have-nots to blame the haves. We hear it time and time again. This is very critical, this next part. Alinsky taught organizers to hide their true intentions in the words they spoke. Denying the truth or just plain lying were both acceptable tactics, as long as the cause advanced. He taught organizers to ridicule opponents when the argument of their opponents could not be refuted by logic, evidence, or argument. In the streets, Alinsky had learned the old communist adage that derision would cause community audiences to laugh at their opponents, rather than to listen to what their opponents were saying. Sound familiar? Have we seen that in this president? Consider, for instance, the rule number 1, the rule, and rule number 13. Pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. The point was to pick a specific person whose views and actions could be vilified, ridiculed, and demonized. The point was to polarize the argument such that liberals in the middle class and the news media would want to identify with the unjust suffering of the downtrodden, rather than the oppression of the wealthy, the business owners, the capitalists, and the political supporting the status quo. You see a pattern. Truthfully, the community organizer did not need to listen to the grievances of the community in order to embrace the economic struggles as if it were his or her own. Instead, the community organizer needed to listen to the grievance of the community in order to be more effective in manipulating the community. The goal was not to sympathize with the economic suffering, but to utilize economic resentment so the community could be organized for effective actions in political arena where power and the law and the numbers would rule the day. It's amazing that this president, who supposedly represents the downtrodden, the have-nots, but yet he takes billions of corporate dollars from corporations. It's amazing that this president will criticize Wall Street, but yet be on Air Force One and go to Wall Street and have meetings with them to raise more money. You see a pattern emerging here? Is it becoming clearer to you? You know, and this president, just to let you know, will do whatever it takes to move his agenda. If that means that he even has to go against his own party or go against people that are out for at the same agenda, because he feels that his message is the only message. This is a commentary that was done on President Barack Obama and his community organizing. How successful Obama was as a community organizer in Chicago is debatable. Representative Bobby Rush, the former Black Panther who in 2000 defeated Obama for Congress, claims Obama exaggerated the limited success he had working in Chicago as a community organizer. Rush, for instance, has charged the activist Hazel Johnson discovered the asbestos in the Algred Gardens housing project long before Obama latched onto the issue and made it a major part of the community organizing story he told about himself in the dreams of my father. So, taking credit for someone else so he can do it. Like I said, you know, the haves not. You know, remember the classic, I don't know if you guys remember, you know, the classic argument that Obama made at the State of the Union speech, you know, where Warren Buffett, you know, where he said, oh, even Warren Buffett agrees with me that his secretary pays more in taxes than Warren Buffett does. And most Americans latched onto that and were like, that's unfair. It's unfair. Even State of the Union address, he even had Warren Buffett's secretary sitting next to First Lady Michelle Obama. Oh, trotted her out. Here's something that you guys don't know, though. You know Warren Buffett's secretary? Bosniak. She earns anywhere from $200,000 to $500,000 a year. Oh, where's your sob story now? Yeah. So this administration will, you know, and the hubris of it. They seriously think about it. They don't think that someone's not going to figure that out. That an executive secretary for one of the wealthiest mans in the world, you know, she's not making $34,000 a year. She's making $200 to $500,000. But of course, it made a great sound bit. Made a great story. Yeah. So, you know, so Sal Alinsky. You see a lot of the patterns here? Now, one of the biggest criticism, not the biggest, there's a lot of criticisms about this president, but have you ever noticed where he says one thing but does another? Have you ever brought that up? Ever wondered, you know, was the guy just so trying to keep it as a clean show. Can't think of the word. So arrogant. Or so naive to think that we don't catch on to that. You know, but the president of the United States is constantly saying one thing but doing another. Now, you got to ask yourself, why, you know, where, you know, where's the right in that? You know, how can you stand up there and say one thing but yet do another? Well, and once again, this tells me how entrenched Sal's teachings are inside the president. Because one thing that Sal said clearly in his teachings is that you can say whatever you want to get what you want. So you can say whatever. It is perfectly, it's almost like the Muslim, in the Muslim religion, where, Islam, I should say, Islam, where in the Quran it gives them the right, or I guess the pass, I should say, the pass, to be evil and do the things and be deceitful, as long as the outcome is leading people to Islam. Kind of like what Sal has done here, is Sal has told people that it is perfectly okay for you to say whatever you want to say, as long as you get what you want. Right? I mean, that's the case. You know, on many occasions, I don't know if you guys remember, but when, you know, I'll give you some examples here. When the Supreme Court struck down the gun laws in Washington, D.C., Obama got up on the national TV and said, I'm for the Second Amendment, and I'm not against guns. I'm paraphrasing. He actually said that. And he kept on doing that. He kept on saying that all through his, through the whole gun debate issue. So he did it not only in Washington, D.C., when the Supreme Court came back and said, guns are, I'm looking for the actual quote. Well, guns, struck down the D.C. ban. At the same time, he claimed mutual support for the gun ban in the Second Amendment. But, of course, you all know that's not the case with this president. He did it again in the McDonald. Actually, there is a McDonald, in Chicago. Chicago has some of the roughest gun laws, for those who don't know. Many of you do. Same thing. When the Supreme Court came back and said, the gun ban was struck down 2 years later, again, he claimed that he was, both the gun ban and the Second Amendment. Supported both the gun ban and the Second Amendment. So he's saying, out of both sides of his mouth, how can he do that? Because Sal taught him that you can double speak. And it's okay to speak to one party and then speak to another. It's perfectly legitimate. It's perfectly okay not to have a position of one versus the other. It's perfectly okay. Because once you get into power and once you establish your power, then you can do what you want to do. It's all about do whatever it takes to get into power. And you heard it right off of the lips of President Obama as he was talking to the ear of Russia. Remember that classic exchange? Just let me get into power and I'll change it. That was a Sal Alinsky tactical move. I got to get into power. I'll say whatever I got to say to get into power. Once I'm in the power, I'll do what I want to do. That's where he learned it from. And you're seeing that now in the healthcare debate. You're seeing an administration that clearly, it came out today, the administration clearly knew that millions of people were going to lose their coverage. The administration clearly knew that people on the exchange or that doctors were going to leave the market. They knew this. Like I said, nothing in Wall Street, nothing in our federal government happens in a void. These people aren't that naive, that naive. They've thought this out long before. They really did. I mean, here's a, I got to bring this up. Here's Ezekiel Emanuel.
Kelly file first now. He is known as one of the architects of President Obama's health care law.
Megyn Kelly of Fox News.
He's here to talk about the rollout of healthcare.gov.
Listen to this.
Joining me now, Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel. He is vice provost at the University of Pennsylvania He served as special advisor for the health policy to the director of the White House Office of Management and Budget, and he is the author of the new book, Brothers Emanuel, a memoir of an American family about to be released in paperback. His brother, Rahm Emanuel, now mayor of Chicago, and he served as President Obama's chief of staff for years. Doctor, thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you because you're a guy who knows a lot about this law, and Americans have a lot of questions about this law tonight. So let me start with this. As you may have heard me say before you came on, the president made this promise repeatedly. Listen.
If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan, period. It's going to bring down skyrocketing costs. It's going to save families money. It's going to save businesses money, and it's going to save government money.
But so far, we are seeing hundreds of thousands of Americans get notices that their insurance has been canceled, that they are getting kicked off of their plans. And now we have news of individuals getting letters saying that their doctors will no longer be included in their plan, so they will be losing their relationship with their doctors unless they pay out of pocket. And so my question is whether you believe the president was intentionally misleading or just grossly mistaken.
Oh, neither of those. He definitely said we're going to keep the same structure that we have. We're going to have private insurance. Employers are going to be mainly providing insurance. We're going to have Medicare for the elderly, Medicaid for poor people, and that's going to be the structure on which we build reform. If an insurance company decides it's changing how it's going to structure its plan, that's not the law doing it. That's the insurance company deciding for business reasons. If employers decide they're not going to continue to cover, that's them deciding for reasons related to their coverage.
But that was
There you go. Now, you know, I don't know about you, but I expect a little bit more thinking from my administration. You know, you got to remember, you know, Harvard law, you know, highly educated, constitutional law. So, you know, you could either believe what he just said, oh, no, you know, the visit, or you can believe the fact that they knew. I mean, just because of business cycles and the way that businesses operate and everything, you can't tell me that you know, there were individuals, experts, financial experts, long before myself, long before any of the commentators out there saying this law will destroy healthcare in America. There is no reason why a business would continue to do healthcare or provide healthcare services to its employees unless they were mandated to. Now, of course, the law as it was originally written before this lawless president changed the law, which he didn't have the right to do, was that, you know, businesses had to have the right, you know, or had to provide health care insurance to their employees. But if you notice at the very end or right before it was supposed to, oh, you don't have to do that. So you can't tell me this administration didn't know that if there's no employment mandate, that millions of individuals are now going to be kicked out of their insurance programs. They knew that. If you think otherwise, I got a bridge to sell you. They knew that. But it goes back to this thing. This is why this president can continually lie to the American people and not feel not feel concerned or upset about it. It's because his life as a community organizer and the people that have trained him, educated him, mentored him, clearly said, it is okay. It is okay to lie, to doublespeak. It's perfectly okay to do those things. Perfectly okay. As long as the ends justify the means, right? Means justify the ends. That's it. Get it backwards. So it's okay, I can tell you whatever you want to hear as long as I get into power and then I can implement whatever I want. That's why this president sleeps well at night, because he's doing his programming that he's been programmed. Now, for those that are listening to us on Blog Talk Radio, you can join us at the web at www.themidnightpatriot.com. That's www.themidnightpatriot.com. midnightpatriot.com, and we're going to continue this conversation. I got a few more things that I want to add to the conversation before we close. I'm going to take a small break. If you want to join us, of course, you can give us a call at 262-997-0607. That's 262-997-0607. And you can Skype us at The Midnight Patriot. That's our Skype name, The Midnight Patriot. So when we get back, we'll kind of wrap this up. I know we went over a little bit, but hey, we can do that. So, like I said, we're going to take a small break, kind of get your, get a little bit of water, do what you got to do. It's a 2-minute break. When we get back, we'll kind of wrap up. I'm going to give you some books that you guys need to read. I'm going to, we've got a few more things we're going to talk about. I am going to go down the list of the 12 rules for radical. So you're listening to Jeff Norton, the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast.
In a moment, cancer changed our lives forever.
We were told nothing could be done to enjoy these final moments together.
But in that moment, when all seemed lost,
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital gave us hope.
Because at this moment, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is saving lives with pioneering research and care. We're changing the way the world treats childhood cancer by sharing our discoveries with doctors and scientists everywhere.
And we'll never have to pay St. Jude for anything ever.
At this moment, she wants to be in her own bed.
I want to be back at school with my friends.
I want to be outside playing.
Please take a moment and join St. Jude in finding cures and saving children. Visit stjude.org.
America, welcome home the brave. The brave men and women who serve their country are coming home. Home to their cities and towns. Home to their mountains and valleys. Home to their families and friends. Home to America. Some of these warriors are coming home with wounds you can see, and some with wounds you can't see, like post-traumatic stress disorder. Wounded Warrior Project was created to provide the support these wounded veterans need to ensure their return to America is well-adjusted and successful. But we need your help to ensure that our mission is a success. Help us honor and empower these wounded warriors. Contact us at findwwp.org. America, welcome home the brave.
We're going to break in here a little bit so we can wrap this up and everything. So you're listening to the Midnight Patriot. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. You can join us here every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time till whenever we get done with the discussion. That's a nice thing about not having to adhere to a production schedule just yet. Those days are changing, though. I will let you know, unfortunately. We got to start Start tightening up. Become a little bit better broadcaster, as they would say. Get our broadcasting skills down. But as I was saying before we went on the break, let me give you the rules. For those that haven't looked it up or put it into Google, let me give you the rules. This is out of the book, Rules for Radicals. Always remember the first rule of power tactics. Not paraphrasing, but I'm actually quoting from the book. Power is not only what you have, but what your enemy thinks you have. That's rule number one. Power is not only what you have, but what your enemy thinks you have. Rule number two. Never go outside the experience of your people. So what he's saying there is basically keep it within the realm. If you drive around in a limousine, or if you drive around at the end of the night in your Bentley, or you always have to keep it at the people's level so that they can relate to you. Even though you're a fraud. It's okay to sit there and talk about the poor people. I feel for the people. When you're buying multi-million-dollar mansions in Hawaii and spending taxpayer dollars and playing golf every day, and not every day, but playing golf, doing all of those things. But you got to keep it. Got to keep it real. Got to keep it real. The third rule, whenever possible, go outside the experiences of the enemy. Here, you want to cause confusion, fear, and retreat. Throw them a curveball. So the rule for you is stay within the people. But when you're dealing with the enemy, is throw them a curveball. Throw them a curveball. The fourth rule, make the enemy live up to their own book of rules. In other words, if you know that your enemy is because you got to remember, these guys are whatever it takes. Combat, whatever it takes to win. But if your opponent has a set of rules, remind them. They have rules. It's amazing that this administration, even in warfare, will talk about rules. But yet, in its own daily operations, it breaks them all the time. The UN is now investigating these drone strikes. Right or wrong, you believe in them or not, to be honest with you, I'd light the country up. That's my position. But you know that with me. Where this administration will talk about, we got to, they'll adhere to UN policies and stuff, on other countries, but yet when it comes back on them, they're like, oh, no, you can't tell us what to do. So you apply the rules, your opponent's rules to them, but you don't apply them to yourself. Your rules. If you're battling a fundamental Christian, make sure that they know that they're a fundamental Christian, and they can't say anything wrong because it's not Christian-like. It's not being a good Christian. But in the meantime, they can sling as much mud as they want at you. They can even lie about you. Seen that a lot in politics these days, haven't we? Watching Congress the other day, when they were still fighting the shutdown. All of the lies and all that disinformation that was going out. Got to ask yourself, why can you sleep at night? Well, because their rule book says it's okay. Their Bible of politics, of liberal politics, community organizing said it was okay. And so you guys want to know, if you want to educate yourself a little bit more, a lot of these policies actually come not from, they obviously come from the Rules of Radicals by Sal. But Sal got them from, we talked about this the other day about the Prince. You need to read that book. That is a a book that's almost required in all poli-science classes called The Prince by Machiavel. It's written by Machiavel. That's where a lot of these have come to. Now, what he did is he took that book, The Prince, and he wrote it into a language in which modern, readers, contemporary readers would understand. But you need to read that book too, The Prince. Put that on your book list. And a lot of this stuff, you'll know where Sal got this. This is not original thought. You can read a lot of communist, socialist books, and you can see the same thing. This is not original thought. Sal did not corner the market on this stuff. He just put it together in such a way that contemporary could read it and understand it and then deploy it. So that's rule number 4. Make the enemy live up to their own book of rules. The 4th rule, it's also part of the 5th rule. Kind of 4th and 5th go together. Ridicule the man's most potent weapon. Find the man's strength and then knock him down. Use their own strength against them. The 6th rule, a good tactic, is one that your people enjoy. Mainstream media. We talk about mainstream media. Why is it so prolific? The reason why they use it is because mainstream media, people will sit in front. When I'm listening, when you're listening to my show, you'll be on. I got you for 3 hours, right? Or 2 hours and a half, whatever it is. Same thing with mainstream media. They got you captivated. It'd be sell sex, but sell whatever they're selling, a better lifestyle, whatever it is. They got you captivated. You're there. And while you're there staring at the tube, they're pumping that image into you. So, that's what you get with mainstream media. They're filling your head with crap. And the whole time that they're doing it, you're sitting there smiling, thinking it's entertainment, be it popular shows, be it, whatever. It doesn't have to be a talk radio show. It can be it could be a comedy, but with social commentary. A good example on both sides of that is, you see a lot of shows in which homosexuality is okay. It's cool, right? So over a period of time, mainstream media has figured this out. So over a period of time, they indoctrinate you. Nothing's done in a bubble. Nothing's done in a bubble. I've always said, the first black president ought to be thinking the movie 24. Remember that show, 24? We had a first powerful black president. I think that moved a lot of people, made them understand. Paul Harvey wrote about this. There's a lot of things that in our society that were never thought of or never even thought about bringing up until a movie was made or until popular, show was done. And then it rose to the front. Maybe I'll pull that article, I'll read it to you. But Paul Harvey, excellent article for those that don't know. Excellent article. Talks about basically how media is used. Issues are not issues until they're actually decided upon by the masters, the New World Order, and then they're put on the media, and then the agenda is pushed. Paul Harvey saw this in the 60s, even before that. So, the 7th rule, a tactic that drags on too long becomes a drag. Quick hits. If you notice that this administration moves from topic to topic pretty quickly. Now, there's times where we want to drag them back into it, kicking and screaming. But then what does their press secretary do? He walks out. He's, Benghazi. You can't get an honest answer out of the Benghazi with Kerry. He just walks out. Fast and Furious. You hear anything about that anymore? No. Just walk out. IRS, NSA, all those things. Things that drag on, just, get rid of them. Because Sal, being the philosopher that he is, understood the human attention span. People will forget, and then you just move on. Don't allow people to continue to bring it up. Great example of that, like I said last week with Fox commentator, when he actually walked out because he was tired of being ignored, and then Carney turned around and did it the next day to him when he started asking him questions about Benghazi and the hearings, because he was getting ready for the 60-minute interview. So what does Kerry do? Carney just walks out. Keep the pressure on. We saw this with the shutdown. What did Obama? He gave direct orders from his administration, make it as painful as possible for him. Through the sequester, he did the same thing, sent out letters where agencies were like, hey, look, we could operate with this number of staff. We don't need 20 people. We can do it with 10. Well, the letter that went out, email, don't tell people that. Keep your mouth shut. It's all about keep the pressure on. Saw that last week, a couple weeks ago. The threat is usually more terrifying than the thing itself. Threaten. Oh, the sky is falling. Oh, if you don't give us our TARP money, we're going to have martial law. Oh, woe is me. To be honest with you, during the shutdown and stuff, most of the people in my community did pretty well. They have looting, didn't have all that. Now, I know there's certain segments of the populace that were rioting in the streets in certain areas. Or not, I don't want to say rioting. They weren't rioting. They were stealing, looting. Remember the EBT fiasco where people went to Walmart in Louisiana and pretty much racked the shelves off? Yeah. So the 10th rule, the major premise for tactics, is the development of operations that will maintain a constant pressure upon your opposition. Talk about that here in a little bit. Let's get through the 11th rule. If you push a negative hard and deep enough, it will break through it in its counter side. Talk about that. We'll just kind of get through these so you guys will know them. The price of success attack is a constructive alternative. And number 13, pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. That's why you're getting Obamacare crammed down our throats, America. That's why they're, damn the torpedoes full steam ahead. That's why they're doing it. And number 13. See how that works? Those are your rules. Those are your playbooks. Now, number 10, the major premise for tactics is the development of operations that will maintain a consistent pressure upon the opposition. In other words, when you find a weakness, keep beating it down. Beat it in, 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 beat it in. Beat it until they break. And eventually, advertisers do this. This is why they play advertisements over and 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 over again. Because eventually you'll just break down and buy it. They know that. That's what it's about. So when you got a political opponent, keep the pressure on. Once you find the chink in the armor, keep it on, keep it on, keep it on. And eventually they'll break it down. You saw that when, the whole 43% with Mitt Romney. He was right. That's what the irony of the whole thing was, is what he said was he was right. He was correct. In his statement about 43% of the people will never vote for him because they're under government assistance. They don't want that assistance to go anywhere. That to me is being truthful. That means he's being honest. A lot of people are like, that's a gaffe. No, that's not a gaffe. Joe Biden sitting on his back porch with a shotgun and say, oh, get your shotgun and shoot it up in the air and scare the guys away. Well, when you do that, you get arrested. Ask the woman who actually that happened to her. as kids or thugs were beating up on her daughter. She fired a round in the air instead of killing one of the kids, which she probably could have done under the protecting your family. The lady shot up in the air, and now she went to jail. She's following vice presidents, you know. So, number 12, the price of the successful attack is a constructive alternative. You know, really that's more of a liberal issue, because liberals seem to be clamoring to rip out some functional necessity of America. So it really doesn't work against conservatives. So basically take something that works, dismantle it, destruct it, and then put something in there that you want in its place. And then claim that it appeases both parties. I'm doing the best. Sound familiar? How about healthcare? Healthcare was fine. The people that worked and contributed and stuff got healthcare insurance through their employer. The people that didn't get it. So we take a perfectly good operating system, one of the best in the country. We have people that come all over the world that come to the United States. And we take it and we dismantle it, and then we rebuild it the way we want it. Now we find out that the way we rebuilt it doesn't even work. And so now what we're going to do is tear it down again eventually, and we're going to rebuild it again until we get what we want, which this president has told you, you know, he wants one payer. We have the audio. You can Google it. You can YouTube it, where he clearly says, you know, Google President Obama, one payer, one payer. That's what he wants. But, you know, following the lead of Sal, he's going to tell you one thing, but he wants another. And then in a private party where he's with his confidants, he's going to completely, you know, he's going to tell you. That's okay, because that's in his play. It's not okay, but that's okay to him because it's written in his Bible, in his playbook. Pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. Get the movement going, getting everybody behind it. Lie, cheat, steal, do whatever you got to do, but polarize it. Pick your target, freeze it, hold it so it can't get loose. Personalize it, turn it into the story of, oh, but look at all the people that don't have health care that we're saving. Well, Mr. President, what about the other flip side of that? You can't, law of nature says you can't take from one without giving to the other. It's just the way it works. But of course, you never hear about that. And then polarize it. Get the people, get the masses, get the media. Get the media behind you. Polarize it. This is a playbook. Everything you see that this administration is doing can be, you can go right to this book and you can read it and you can see it firsthand. It's a playbook. So if you want to take the time to understand, you know, and the other thing is, you know, I appreciate the comments and stuff. I really do. I mean, I see a lot of them on Facebook and stuff, but a lot of them are just way out there, completely out there, you know. And I'm not criticizing you for doing that, but I'm just saying is that you might want to look at a different point of view, make an argument that will sit, because the only way that you're truly going to affect change or bring change about is you've got to make a coherent argument. It goes back to the whole water cooler. If you come in there and say, "Oh, Obama is a Muslim terrorist and he's pining to be the main Khalif or whatever, the Muslim of the Islam religion," people are going to look at you and go, "You're pretty crazy." I'll probably listen to you because I want to hear what you have to say. But that's the way we do things here at the Midnight Patriot. I want to hear your opinions. I want to hear what you think. That your opinion does matter to us. Because who knows? You might be right. But based upon the research I did, is that if you go in with that argument, you're going to lose. But if you go in the argument and say, hey, look, Obama, we figured out, you had to read this book called Rules for Radicals. Sal Lewinsky, Obama was indoctrinated to it back in 1985 when he became a community organizer at a black church. He was specifically hired to convert this African-American church in inner city Chicago because the individual Kaufman and those guys were all white, and they knew that they didn't have a snowball chance in Hades to do it. So they hired Barack Obama, put him in the position, and then indoctrinated him. And in the books, these are the rules. These are their guides. These are their 12-step rules, 13 rules. Here they are. And if you ask about, the fact that President, why does he say one thing but you do another? Well, that's in that book too. That it's okay because it's okay to double speak. It's in his playbook. It's in his Bible. It's kind of like why do Muslims blow themselves up? Because they're told through their religion that if they do that, obviously, we've all heard the story about the virgins and all that stuff, right? Kind of like this book, And then, like I said, you seriously got to look at the fact that the book, when a book is actually dedicated to Lucifer himself, so there's some satanic, I don't care what you say, you dedicate a book to Lucifer, there is definitely some satanic influences there, which even elevates it to a whole different level. It moves it to a completely different level. You're not dealing with mere, mortal kind of things. You are in a completely different level. Once you bring Lucifer into the picture, it's the same difference with people that bring Christ in. When you bring Christ into your life, or you bring Christ into the conversation, you're at a different level than the mere mortal or the atheist, because you see things differently than an atheist would as a Christian, or as a man or woman of God. So the conversation tends to take a whole different direction. But now we've introduced Lucifer into the conversation, and there you go. Whole different direction. You've elevated the conversation. So, got to ask yourself. Not saying Barack Obama worships Satan. Not saying that. What I'm saying, though, is that he's taking his playbook, he's taking his cues from a playbook called Rules for Radical, in which Lucifer is dedicated. The book is dedicated to him. Raises some serious questions. Right? So, as I said earlier, there's 3 books that you should be reading. Actually, 1 book. Well, 2 books. The first book is Sal Lewinsky, The Evil Genius Behind Obama. That was actually written by Jerome Corsi. You need to read that book. It's like 30 pages. It's a very good article. Rules for the Revolution is another one. Barack Obama's Rules for Revolution. Excellent book. To give you some insight. And the last one, of course, is Sal's Rules for Radicals. So, talked about a lot of things tonight here at the Midnight Patriot. I hoped you enjoyed our conversation. A lot of research. We are going to start moving into more of the Agenda 21 and the Global Elite New World Order conversations in the next coming weeks. Like I said, we will have some guests later on this week. Obviously, we're going to get congressional candidate Rodney Lee Conover to join us. He is going to be bringing a special guest with him if we get confirmation. So we'll get him in later on the week. We'll have some other guests. Hopefully we'll get Madison Rising in a little bit later on the show. But a lot of heavy stuff. Normally we kind of keep it on the quick. But tonight, we got a little bit more because I think it's important that you understand And like I said, by no means, you need to go read these books if you got time. You know, you get them at Amazon. They're about $2 a piece or so to your Kindle or like device. You know, because that will give you insight. That will give you a leg up so you can actually articulate arguments that will affect change. Let people know that you are not just spewing off what you hear in mainstream media, but you actually have some insight to what's going on. So, like always, it's been great talking with you guys tonight, sharing this information with you. You know, I thoroughly enjoy the opportunity that I have talking to you every night, my fellow patriots. Now, one of the things, you know, we were talking to a couple people today. They're asking how they can help. You know, be it, you know, writers and sending us articles and all of that stuff. The best way, there's a couple ways. Obviously, you know, you can join the Patriot Insider. Send me an email or a message on Facebook. We'll get you involved there. The other way that you can help us, obviously, is that, you know, this is what we do. You know, this is our profession, or my profession. I know a lot of you say get another profession, but no, that ain't gonna happen. This is what we do. Now, the way that we pay our bills and everything like that is by the grace of God. Seriously. It's amazing how it works. When we need it, we get it. Not when we want it, but when we need it, we get it. But one of the things, too, that will help us out tremendously, we want to add a hybrid phone system so we can communicate with several listeners at the same time as we grow this show. And that costs money. It's about $2,000 and another $400 a month in phone bills. And you know, so the best way that we can do that, obviously, is that we put advertisement up on the page. So if you're a small business owner, or if you know of a small business owner, you know, go out to our page. There's advertising spots. If there's a spot that you like, just click on advertise and then you can buy that spot. That'll be yours. We also offer, if you want to buy a show spot, so an actual show. So if you want to sponsor a show, it's $1 a show. And basically, you are the sponsor. So as long as that show's on the website and stuff, every time someone downloads it, you will be the sponsor of that show. So basically, we say the show is sponsored by blah, 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 blah. So if you want to buy a month of shows, you pay $30. So at the beginning of the show, when we do it, we will always play Star Spangled Banner. We will always play our intro. And then after that, we'll say the show is sponsored by. That's $30 a month. So every time that show's downloaded, every time that, you know, everybody hears that at the beginning of the show. That's $30 a month. And I understand. Times are tough. One of the best ways that you can support us, in a way that we've been growing, and it shows. You know, like I said, we got confirmation that we're on Microsoft Xbox Music now. You can listen to us through that, any Windows device, any Windows 8 device. But the best way to support us is get the word out. If you like one of our shows, re-list it. Send it out to your blogs. We don't mind. You can copy our shows all day long and put them out there. We don't have a problem with it whatsoever. Repost it. Get involved. This is a way of posting information out there and stuff, and this is how we'll grow our show. Now, eventually, so you guys know, I mean, we are working with Spreaker, which is a iHeartRadio affiliate site. We're getting there. We're getting there. The fact that we were on Microsoft, that we're getting on Microsoft today and everything, it shows us that we're getting there. And the only way that we're getting there is because of listeners like you. You know, all the great feedback that we get. Now, you know, like I said, if there's something that we, you know, you think that might make us sound a little bit better, or we can change something, let us know. Let us know. Send me a note. I don't have a problem with that. But, you know, we're in this together. Like I said, this show was created to give you a voice. The other way that you can actually do it is participate in the shows. I know we get a lot of listeners. Like I said, we get over 1,000 listeners. Now, I know that happens during the day. Most of you guys are sleeping at night and stuff. But as we grow, our goal is that our first milestone is about 14,000 listeners a show. But as you're listening to the show, call in. Don't be afraid. I've always said I'm the tracks, you're the train. I'll make sure that you're not embarrassed. I'll make sure you feel comfortable calling in and talking to us. This is your opportunity to voice your opinion, to give voice, to give sound to your argument. It's one thing to sit there and refeed, and post and take a picture and, redo that on Facebook. It's another thing to actually participate. Give us a call. Call in. Tell your friends about us. Download us. Put us on your devices. If you have a friend or whatever that's against us or what, pro government or whatever, give us a call. Have them call us. Love to talk to them. Love to talk to them. It's all about listening to other ideas and other opinions. So with that, I just want to say good night. God bless you. May He keep you. May He protect you. You're listening to the Midnight Patriot Radio Show podcast. For more information, you can join us on the web at www.themidnightpatriot.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. We won't spam you. Everything we put out is just pertinent to what we do here. We don't do refeeds and all of that stuff. So you don't have to worry about getting a bunch of spam from us on your Facebook page. Get the word out. Get the word out. So with that, until we speak tomorrow, we're probably going to start our Agenda 21 conversations. New World Order conversations starting tomorrow. Of course, we will always be talking about Obamacare until we get rid of this abomination. We will be talking about NSA, IRS, all of those topics. So with that, good night. And until we see each other again.
Leading with train.